One story that really stuck with me is a story about this airport in Tehran. Do you mind maybe telling that story? Because I think it shows kind of how the gods operate.
There was all this talk that it might kind of be a hub, sort of like Dubai or Istanbul. So it finally opens, and on the first day of its opening, the guards stop the first plane from actually landing. And ultimately, they basically drive out these armored land cruisers onto the tarmac and blocking the airplane. The officials in the government are begging the guards, meanwhile, to please allow the plane to land. There's all these foreign dignitaries who have gathered for this opening. It's shaping up to be a real embarrassment. Finally, the guards allow the plane to land, but then, of course, at every stage, they don't let the plane taxi. Then they don't let the passengers off the jetway, and then finally that's all resolved. But then the second plane that wants to land, the guards actually scramble a fighter jet and threaten the pilot of the plane with a shoot down if they get any closer to Tehran. And so the plane is diverted south to Esfahan. And the guards make all these statements and claims about the company that had been granted the contract for the airport is connected to the Zionists and is Israeli. This was a Turkish-Austrian firm. And they were making this claim about it. Later on, months and years later, we kind of get the full story, which is, at least according to the transport minister at the time who was in charge of this project, he says, no, the guards had bid to run the airport. They had, participated in the tender process, but their price was much higher, and so we didn't choose them. And so they lost out in a competition. But instead of, allowing things to move forward, they decided to say, no, like, we basically are not allowed to fail. We're too big to fail, and we're not going to allow any foreign entity or any entity that we don't control to profit from Iran's growth and from Iran's economic development. This was a major chapter, and the Iranian reformist government in charge at the time really had no response to this. I mean, what do you do in response to an adversary that is willing to threaten to kill hundreds of civilians over a business deal?